Adjunct Professor Moran, Microeconomics. In this video, we're going to step back a minute and review demand, both changes, how to graph a demand schedule, how to calculate change in quantity demanded, and how to shift a demand curve. Then we're going to add a new concept called consumer surplus. Okay, so here we have a demand schedule, a numeric table that expresses a relationship between price and quantity demanded. We're going to graph that demand schedule. You do that by finding price, which is on the y-axis, and quantity demanded, which is on the x-axis, and match the matching and graph the matching data points. So a dime is 350, 15 cents is 300, 20 cents 250, 25 cents 200, 30 cents 150, 35 cents 100, and 40 cents 50. Connect the dots, and we have a demand curve, a numerical expression of a demand schedule. Notice the negative relationship, that as price goes up, quantity demanded falls. And as we discussed, that's because of the principle of diminishing margin utility. As you consume additional units of something, you enjoy it less, and so would be able to pay less for it. The substitution effect, as price goes up, you'll buy less as you substitute to alternate goods. And the income effect, at a higher price, your income won't be able to buy as many. 3 reasons the demand curve has a negative relationship between price and quantity. The data from the demand curve D indicate that at a price of 30 cents, the buyers would be willing and able to buy 150 million grebes. Other things constant, that means that the only variable we're allowing to change to explain the quantity demanded is price. The other things that affect quantity demanded, the things that shift the demand curve, number of consumers, income, tastes, expectations, substitutes, complements, are all constant. If the price of grebes increased to 40 cents per grebe, buyers would be willing and able to buy only 50 million grebes. Such a change would be a decrease in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded happens only because of a change in price. If price, on the other hand, is constant, and its number of consumers, income, tastes, expectations, the price of substitutes and complements, then it's a change in demand itself, the curve moves. But here, we just went from one point on the demand curve to another point on the demand curve. That's a change in quantity demanded. Other things constant, if the price of grebes decreased to 20 cents, then consumers would be willing and able to buy 250. Such a change would be called an increase in quantity demanded. Now let's suppose that there is a dramatic change in the federal income tax rates that affect disposable income of grebes. This change in the ceteris paribus, all else being constant conditions underlying the original demand curve, will result in a new set of data shown in 9.3. Study this data and add the demand curve for grebes to the axes provided. Okay. So, originally, at a dime, there were 350. At 15 cents, it was 300, 250, 200, and 150. So this change in taxes had to be an increase in taxes, leaving consumers with less income. Now remember that something that shifts the demand curve, if this is the original demand curve 1 and this is demand curve 2, this is an increase in demand. This is not a change in quantity demand. The entire line has moved. So at the original price, consumers are now willing to buy more, and it's true for all the other prices on the demand curve. If something causes demand to fall, it's a shift to the left. So at the original price, consumers are willing to buy less than they were originally. The quantity increases. What causes these changes in demand? Number of consumers, consumer income, tastes for goods, preferences, fads, expectations about future income and prices, and the price of substitutes and complements. Go back to the prior unit video if you don't recall that. So you can see that at the original price, consumers are now only able to buy less than they were originally. So income has fallen, assuming that this is a normal good. We can now graph this, 10 and 250. Now that there's more than one of these, you should subscript these as D1 and the new one labeled D sub 2. The demand curve has shifted to the left, a decrease in demand. So unlike the original problem, which we were moving on one demand curve, which is referred to as a change in quantity demanded, this movement of the entire demand curve is referred to as a change in demand. Let's review the questions. Comparing the new demand curve D1 with I like to go D1 and D2. We can say that the change in demand for Grebes resulted in a shift of the curve to the left. Because for any one price, a shift to the left results in a smaller quantity as you move closer to the origin, that's considered a decrease in demand. Such a shift indicates that at each of the possible prices shown, consumers are now willing and able to buy a smaller quantity, and at each of the quantities shown, consumers will have to offer a higher price. The cause of this demand curve was an increase in tax rates that decreased the disposable income of consumers. This is a decrease in demand, not a change in quantity demanded. The entire demand curve moved. This describes a shift in demand, not a change in quantity demanded. New demand curve for Grebes. Now let's suppose there's a dramatic change in people's taste and preference for Grebes. They really like Grebes a lot more than they used to. So here's the new demand curve. Originally at 30 cents, there was 150, and at 25 cents, 200, and at 20 cents, 250. You can now see that at each price, consumers are willing and able to buy more. This is an increase in the demand for Grebes. So let's take a look at 20 cents, they now want 350. 20 cents, they now want 350. 20 cents, 350. This will now be D sub 3. This is an increase in demand, because at any price, consumers are now willing and able to buy more. This doesn't happen because of a change in price. Price is a constant. At any one price, it's the amount that they're buying is changing. It's a shift in the entire demand curve. It's a shift, an increase in demand. Such a shift indicates that at each possible price shown, buyers are now willing and able to buy a larger quantity, and at each of the possible quantities shown, buyers are willing to offer a higher price. Because of this shift in demand, there was an increase in people's taste for Grebes. Now, to test your understanding, underline the question that you think is appropriate. Other things constant, which of the following would not cause a change in demand? If it's not a change in demand, it is a change in price. Now, in the future, that would be expectations, and that would cause a shift. But the price now is a change in quantity demanded, a movement along one single demand curve. This is as opposed to a change in number of consumers, income, tastes, expectations, substitutes, complements, which is a change or a shift in demand itself. A decrease in consumer incomes is a shift in demand. A decrease in the price of mopeds, That's a substitute good, a shift in demand. An increase in the price of bicycles, that's a change in price. This is a change in quantity demanded, not a shift in demand. And preferences and tastes is taste. These other three choices are shifts in demand. Only the one that describes price now is this one. Rising oil prices caused a sharp decrease in demand for oil. That is not correct, although it is commonly said that way on news stations. To an economist, if there's a change in price, it's a change in quantity demanded, not a change in demand. But most people won't understand that, so they just use the shorthand of saying change in demand. The quotation is incorrect. An increase in price will cause a decrease in the quantity demanded. As the price of domestic automobiles inches upward, customers have found foreign autos to be a better bargain. Consequently, domestic auto sales have been decreasing and foreign auto sales have been increasing. This is the only information which is correct. This is a change in quantity demanded because it's a change in the price of the good itself, a change in quantity demanded. But the substitute good are foreign imports, so this is a shift in demand for foreign cars. That would look like this. The price of domestic cars has increased, causing the quantity to fall. A change in quantity demanded. Let's say nothing's happened to the price of foreign cars, but because people are buying fewer domestic cars at any given price for imported cars, they will now be buying more. That means the entire demand curve has shifted. This is a shift in demand. Not both. Not both. Yes. Yes. A movement along the demand curve for domestic cars and a change in the entire demand curve for imports. We'll end this video now for the sake of breaking it up and pick up the new piece that we want to add, and that is the concept of consumer surplus.